The first step to buying a home is not looking at houses. That's where a lot of first time buyers get themselves in trouble. They start scrolling Zillow, falling in love with kitchens, mentally placing the couch, and then find out the payment doesn't work, the cash needed is higher than expected, or the house they loved is already gone. So, in this video, I'm going to walk you through the actual steps to buying your first home in the order they should happen so you know what to do first, what to avoid, and when it finally makes sense to start touring homes. I'm Quinlan, a realtor here in Indianapolis, and I help first-time buyers understand the process without making it feel like a 400 level college course in paperwork. Let's get into it. All right, the first step in buying a home is hopefully to find a realtor like myself to help you out. Someone who's going to walk you through all the steps that you need so that you are comfortable with the process. So now you've reached out to me. What I'm going to do as a realtor is I'm going to ask you a very important question. How are you paying for this house? Yeah, the majority of people who buy a home are getting a loan to do so. Well, that means you need to get a lender involved. Now, if you're a cash buyer, this can be super fast, super simple. You're going to have to prove to your realtor that you do actually have the funds necessary to pay for the whole house. You can't necessarily come back later and say, oh, you know what? I didn't have enough money to buy this house, because that kind of voids your purchase agreement, because your purchase agreement says you have the money that's going to pay for the entire thing. So make sure that you can prove that you have that money available. Now, you don't have to have it all at once. It can be in different accounts. You just need to have some sort of proof, and maybe in multiple ways, that that money actually exists. Now, let's go back to the possibility and the likelihood that you are probably going to need a lender. Well, the reason you want to talk to a lender first before you even start searching for a house is for proof. Just like with a cash buyer, you need to have proof of funds. Well, a lender is going to look through your paperwork. They're going to check your pay stubs. They're going to check your work stability, the fact that you have a job, and the fact that you've had a job for a certain amount of time with pay stubs that show that, and how much money that is. Now, that could be you, it could be you and another person. Heck, it could even be you and a small group of people, but you do have to show that you have the money to do so. A lender is going to look at all of that, put all of that together, and say, okay, here's what you are approved for to buy a house. Now, a good lender is going to say, here's what you're approved for, but you want to talk to that lender about what you're comfortable paying on a monthly basis. And so that might be a different number, smaller than what your approval is for. If you want to go all in on that pre-approval, well, you're going to have a tough time surviving. Sorry, it's just the truth. Because think about it, beyond paying for your monthly mortgage payment, you have food you got to pay for, most likely gas for your car, you got to pay for the utilities, you need to pay for just overall maintenance of your house, and then hopefully actually have something to do on weekends or nights, and you're not always stuck in the house. If you max out your payment into just your mortgage, well, you're going to lose out on that house. Find something where you are comfortable with a monthly payment and still be able to do those other things that I just mentioned. That's an important conversation that you want to have with your lender. Now you have that pre-approval. So you go back to your realtor and say, okay, here's what I'm pre-approved for. And now you can start searching for houses. Here's the problem if you don't do this in the correct order. Let's say that you have this dream of buying a house and you're taking what you're paying in rent and you are transferring that into a monthly payment for a mortgage on a house. Not always equivalent one to the other. So that's an important thing to understand. So you take this magic number, you plug it into, let's say, Zillow Estimator, and it tells you what you might be able to afford. So you're starting to look at houses online and you want to go to a realtor and say, hey, I want to go in and see this house. All right, so you tell the realtor that you are going to get a home that's about 300,000. We'll use that as an example. All right, so you start going to look at $300,000 houses. You find one you love and you put in an offer. Well, in order to put in that offer, you have to have your pre-approval. So now you're going to go to the lender. The lender's going to look through all your paperwork and they might say, 300,000 is pushing it. And it's going to be at your absolute max budget. And you don't want to do that, just for the reasons I just said. Or maybe you're not even going to get approved for 300. Maybe you're going to get top out at 290 or 275 or something like that. Well, now you've wasted your time. You've wasted the realtor's time to go and look at those houses that you can't even afford. You've wasted the time of that homeowner who had to get out of the house so that you could come in and tour it. And they're excited because someone may want to buy their house. And now they find out that they couldn't even afford it in the first place. So you've wasted a lot of time, a lot of effort. And unfortunately, there's a chance that you fell in love with that house. I mean, you want to make an offer on it, and you've already decided where your furniture is going to go, which side of the garage you're going to park on. So many things are just ramping up in excitement, and now you've realized that you can't afford the house that you fell in love with. That can be very deflating. For some buyers, it can turn them off maybe completely, or at least for a certain amount of time. You want to back off and be like, you know what, I just need to take a break. And again, we're wasting everybody's time. So the pre-approval is really one of the most important steps. Really, it's 1A and 1B. Get a lender and get a realtor. By the way, you don't have to have a realtor to buy a house. You don't. I do, and I'm a realtor, so I'm going to say this. I do recommend that you have a realtor to do so. Now, if you live in a world where you deal with contracts and important paperwork on a regular basis, maybe you don't even want to mess with that. But here's the danger there. When you go to buy that house, you can put in an offer on your own. You could talk to the agent who has listed that house for sale, and they can work up all the paperwork for you. But what you have to understand is that realtor is working for the seller. They're going to help you because they, of course, want to get somebody to buy the house, but they really don't have a strong obligation to you as much as they do to the seller. So they're going to do probably the bare minimum to help you get to the closing table, and you might be missing out on a lot of things, which I'm going to be going through here in just a minute. So it's, in my opinion, important to have somebody represent you, someone who's looking out for your best interests on your side of that transaction. All right, so getting back into what goes into buying a house. You've got your pre-approval, you've got your realtor, you've got an amount of money that you want to spend on a house, and so now the search begins. Now, your realtor can set up a search for you so that homes that are for sale in your price range are automatically going to come to your inbox. Your realtor is probably going to be scouring the internet for homes that can work. Your realtor may have an inside track on homes that aren't even on the market yet, some pre-market listings that can potentially get you in the door before it even goes on sale. So that's the kind of things you want to talk to your realtor about. You certainly go look at Zillow, look at Realtor.com, look at Redfin, look at all of those available resources. There's a good chance that the homes you're going to see there are the same homes that your realtor is going to be sending to your inbox. So there's a bit of crossover. But when you see a house that you like, when you see some houses that you like, talk to your realtor and get them to set up showings for you. Ideally, you're going to see more than one or two in a given showing period, but sometimes transactions go quickly. You don't really have the time to find a bunch of houses that you can go to on the same day, and you might just be going to see one. That's totally fine. So you go and look at the house. Now, when you're looking through the house, you're going to start picturing in your head where your furniture is going to be, where you're going to put the swing set in the backyard. Oh, are we going to put a basketball hoop out in the front? Are we going to change the flooring? Are we going to repaint this room? There's a lot of things that start to go through your head. Look around for things that might be defective, that might have to be replaced. Things that are a little warped or damaged. Can you deal with that? Can you get that fixed? Do you know somebody who can help you with that? Or is this going to be a big inspection list that you're going to be asking the seller to address? Those are the things that you need to factor in because all of that goes into how you're going to make an offer on the house. So you go look at some houses and you finally decide, okay, you found the one. And by the way, statistically, people look at about 7 to 10 homes before they find the one that they want to actually make an offer on. Not always the case, but that's generally about where you fall in line. Understand you can only put an offer in on one house at a time, because if you have multiple offers out there and all of them get accepted around the same time, well, you're legally, according to a contract, on the hook to buy all of those houses. And good luck trying to get yourself out of those. So, one house at a time. So you make your offer, you talk to your realtor. What are the terms going to be for the offer? Things you need to consider. Closing date. From the time you make that offer, and this is assuming that you're getting a loan, you want to assume about 30 to 35 days from offer acceptance to actually closing on the house. So what is going to work for your schedule on getting into that house? And one thing you need to determine is, what's your current lease, assuming that you're renting, when does your current lease expire? Because you may wind up having a mortgage payment and a lease payment due at the same time, which can be kind of tricky. When your offer is accepted and you close, the first mortgage payment is not due the next month, it's due the first of the month after. So this is being recorded in May. If you were to close this month on a house, your first mortgage payment is not due June 1st, it's due July 1st. So that does give you a little bit of leeway. So if you still have to make another rental payment for the next month, you're not making a double payment. But is there going to be a penalty if you have to get out of your lease early because you're going to be moving into the house in July? Those are things you have to consider. So other things to consider beyond closing date: earnest money. Now, here in Indiana, earnest money, while not legally required, is generally good practice to do. Earnest money is a first payment that you're making on the house. It is approximately 1% of the purchase price. It can be more, and some people like to make a large earnest money payment because that shows the buyer or shows the seller that you're serious about buying the house. Some people can't make the 1%. They only have a certain amount of money in their account right now, and you do what you can, and you hope that the seller accepts that. That money sits in an account. It's technically your first payment towards the house. So you know what your down payment is going to be. You should know approximately what your closing costs are going to be. Well, if you made, let's say on that $300,000 house, 1% down payment would be $3,000. That $3,000 is your first payment towards all of that closing costs. So down payment and all that, $3,000 comes out of what would be that payment at the end for closing. So you've already got that there. When's a good closing date? What's your earnest money going to be? When is this offer expire? Because when you make an offer, there is an expiration that you want to put in there. Other things, what do you want included? Like the appliances, anything that is attached to the house is technically considered part of the property. The seller can exclude certain things, like Ring doorbells often get excluded, or security cameras, things like that. They are attached to the house, so if the seller wants to take it with them, they need to let you know that they're taking them with them. Is there anything, I don't know, odd that you want to include in the purchase? Like, let's say the pool table that's in the basement. A lot of people don't like to move pool tables because they're super heavy and awkward to try and move out of a house. So you may ask for the seller to include that in the sale. Maybe at no cost. Maybe you're going to offer to buy that. By the way, that is a completely separate agreement, and your realtor will take care of that. So you go through the contract. Ideally, if you have any questions, you're going to ask your realtor about that. Maybe your realtor even goes through section by section what's in the purchase agreement and what you are ideally signing. You get everything signed and sent over to the seller for consideration. And then the waiting game begins. You hope, maybe know that our offers are coming in. You hope that your offer is great. The seller could counter offer, come back with some different terms, slightly different than what you may have put in there, and it's a back and forth negotiation. They can accept your offer outright. They can also just say no outright and not do anything and just move on. So there's just a waiting period that you're just waiting for the seller to figure out what they want to do. Now let's pretend, congratulations, your house is now under contract because they accepted it, and a few things kick in right away. Your earnest money is usually due within 2 or 3 business days after the offer is accepted. That can be done electronically. Sometimes it's a cashier's check. Your realtor will let you know how that gets submitted. You're going to want to set up a home inspection, which is highly encouraged. It's not required, but highly encouraged to have a home inspection so that they can go in and determine what it is that may be wrong with the house that you might want to ask for the seller to address. The lender is going to send an appraiser out in the coming days where they're going to assess the value of the property to make sure that the property comes to where you agreed on the price. It may not, it might. And so that, again, something that your realtor is going to talk to you about. Here in Indiana, depending on who we're talking about, you're going to assume that an appraisal is going to cost you anywhere from probably $400 to $600. Same with the inspection. So those are costs that are upfront. Earnest money, inspection, appraisal within probably the first week after getting under contract. That's all the money that should be due until you get to closing. Now, if you have to bring in an outside inspector like a mold company or a roofing company or a contractor of some sort, some of them will do free inspections and give you an estimate on what it will cost. Some of them do charge money. So that could be extra money that comes out, but it's on a case-by-case basis. In a separate video, I would go through the inspection process and the appraisal and how all of that works, because it really is a much more detailed thing than I want to put into this particular video. I'm really just trying to give you all the things that are involved in this one. Come back for that video another time. So, appraisal and inspection are done and they're good, and now you're moving towards closing, which, if you remember, I said it's going to be about 30 to 35 days from after the contract was accepted until you get to the closing table. So you come to closing, you're probably going to be wiring money. It is legally required that if you are bringing more than $10,000 to closing, it has to be wired electronically. The title company, your lender, will make sure that you have the correct wiring instructions. You're going to make sure you double check that, because you don't want to accidentally send money to a scammer. Then you don't get that money back and you're probably not closing on a house because you lost that money. But let's pretend that all of that goes well. You wire the money, you show up to closing, your lender is going to send the rest of the money that they are loaning in the process. They're going to send that to the title company. Then you're going to sign a whole bunch of papers on closing day, and depending on what you negotiated, you're either going to be given the keys to the house right away because you get possession right away, or you've given the seller a couple of days to stay in the house. Maybe they're moving to a new place and need some time. Maybe they need a weekend to pack up all their stuff. Who knows, for whatever reason, you've allowed that, and then you'll get the keys at a later time. Boom, you are a homeowner. Buying your first home is a big deal, but it doesn't have to feel like you're wandering through the process blindfolded while people throw paperwork at you. The key is doing things in the right order. Understand your money first, get the right people around you, know what you're actually comfortable spending, and then start looking at homes that fit real life, not just a search filter. And remember, the goal is not just to buy a house. The goal is to buy the right house with a payment you can live with in a way that doesn't make you question every life decision you've ever made. If you're thinking about buying your first home in the Indianapolis area, I'd be happy to help you make sense of the process. You can reach out anytime and we'll start with the basics: your goals, your timeline, and what actually makes sense for you. You know what to do. Call BQ. Thanks for watching.